Welcome to the First Right Podcast, a weekly conservative news show brought to you by Restoration of America. I'm your host, Jerry Ewalt, Chief Marketing Officer for Restoration of America. And today we are blessed to welcome a nationally known sportscaster, Michele Tafoya, who walked away from a very successful career to speak out on the issues of the day. Her courage inspires us. Well, Michele, it is a great pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
So I was looking through some of the stuff that you've said in the past, and one of the quotes that you had is that you have a passion for being a performer in sports, and you had the last 3 decades doing exactly that. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
There was a point when I was in college and then later in grad school where I thought, I really love sports more than almost anything. I also love being in front of people. And at that time, I had some really good people, role models to look to. Women were just sort of starting to get into the field. So you had like Robin Roberts and Hannah Storm and Leslie Visser and, starting to become presences on television. And so I thought, maybe I'll try that. And I don't think in my wildest dreams I would have imagined I would end up on Sunday Night Football for 10 years or 11, I think. But it's been a dream.
Well, you're like the GOAT for sportscasting, and I'll just, since it was sports, I'll give some statistics here. So it says you've covered 327 primetime games in 5 Super Bowls. You're a 4-time Sports Emmy Award winner. You are one of the most recognizable names, especially in the NFL, but I understand NBA, WNBA, and even the Olympics. So you've had an amazing career, and again, it spanned over about 3 decades, but I haven't seen you on the sidelines recently, so I'm like, what's going on? Where's Michele?
Yeah.
Because this is like a dream job. What happened?
Well, it was a dream job, and I had gotten so much out of it, and I loved every minute of it, but I really would tell you that after 9/11, I changed a lot as a human, as an American, as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter. And I started to see my country sort of threatened. And I am a proud daughter of an Hispanic man, rest in peace, Dad, who called this the greatest country on the world, on God's green earth, and I agree with him. It gave him the American dream, and my mom. They both grew up dirt poor during the Depression, and they worked hard. And so he instilled work ethic. They both did, in all 4 of my siblings and I. And me. So after 9/11, I thought, the world changed for me. And as the conversation progressed throughout the years following that, I just wanted to be part of a bigger conversation about what's going on in this country. And now, really, I think rather than the threats from the outside, it seems to me the threats are on the inside. And I just wanted to be part of that conversation. Now, when you're on Sunday Night Football, and that is the crown jewel of the NBC sports conglomerate, you don't want to court controversy to that show. And I understood that, and I respected that, and I appreciated that. So while I wanted to have a podcast on the side, some of my colleagues at NBC said, can you wait? Can you wait? And it just got to the point where I couldn't wait anymore. So we set a timeline, and in 2018, I gave my notice, and we worked it out so that I would stay on for one more Super Bowl, which was in 2021. Right? Yeah, no, 2022, excuse me, after the 2021 season. Yeah. And once that Super Bowl was over, I knew I was done, and I was embarking on a new project in my life.
So your story is amazing, and that's why I want to dig into it a little bit, because I think there's a lot of Americans out there right now that are kind of feeling conflicted the way that you are. So 9/11 hit, that started, that was the triggering process. That started the snowball of events, if you will. And, but that was a while ago, so it took you a while to kind of execute on that idea. So how did it keep building up? Were there more events that kind of kept pushing you closer and closer to leaving?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot that went on during the Obama administration. I felt like the healthcare legislation was not I really want to be careful with my words. That's one thing I'm trying to do is be very careful with my words and not just throw flames.
Hmm.
But I didn't agree with that legislation. I thought it was wrong for America.
Hmm.
And you saw this rise of people. I didn't consider myself part of the Tea Party, but I saw the rise and I empathized with them. And I empathized with the other side as well. But I thought there were better solutions, and the better solutions weren't being found. But this stirred up in me more and more interest in defending what I think is a brilliant constitution. And so that happened. And then certainly Trump's election animated the entire country, let alone the world. And then I just saw some really on both sides, some extreme responses on both sides to what was happening. And this ignoring actual some really good policies that the Trump administration implemented, and people were paying more attention to rhetoric and tweets and that kind of thing. And I thought, we're going insane here. We're tearing ourselves apart. We're so divided right now. And that scares me more than some of the external threats, although there are plenty of external threats to be afraid of as well.
No, I completely agree with you. Of course, there's external threats, but we're killing ourselves from the inside, right? That's
Yeah.
where the majority and the most vicious part of the attack is coming from the inside. I mean, a lot of people will point to the move towards a social Marxist type of
Yeah.
concept in our country, and it's absolutely terrifying, and people are asleep. And it sounds like you had that voice in your head at least since 9/11, but that's been kind of building and building over time.
Yeah,
And
it has.
so, and help me, because you have a great platform, but you had this amazing platform
Yeah.
where just millions of Americans just tuned in. I mean, I was a huge football fan as well. I tell people, it's like I think I know Michele. I feel like I know Michele because I've seen you for last 30 years on TV, and people crowd around the TV in the living room and they know you. So how were you able to kind of continue voicing what was going on through that, or you felt you really had to leave? Were they pushing you out, or was it something that you just
No one
mutual?
pushed me out.
Okay.
I want to give NBC all the credit in the world,
Yeah.
and anyone that thinks I was pushed out is just absolutely dead wrong. This was my decision. They asked me to stay on through the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and so I did. Now, they were great. There were times where I'd speak at conservative conferences or dinners, or I'd support candidates who were clearly conservative, and they were okay with that. They'd always kind of say, "You're not going to say anything crazy, right?" But because you must be careful. You're representing Sunday Night Football. You're representing the league to a certain extent. You're representing the company, and I got that. I always promised I would, keep it together. But it's really hard now to say things that someone isn't going to be offended by,
I
right?
know.
If someone wants to be offended by something you say, they will find a way and they will be offended, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
That's right.
So I think that NBC just wanted to steer clear of that. I got that. So they still allowed me, like I said, to do certain events, but what I really wanted to do was sit in front of, like what you're doing, sit in
Yeah.
front of a camera and talk to people and talk with people and have guests on my show that I felt I could have good faith conversations with. And so that's really what I've been trying to do on my podcast, Sideline Sanity, which is going through a rebrand and is going to come out May 1st, new and improved. So that's what I'm trying to do.
So tell us more about that. So what is it that you are currently doing, and how does that align with your values?
Yeah. Well, I sit down every day and I think, what is bothering me? And what do I feel strongly about? And who are some people I'd really like to engage with, right? Who are some people that I think are sane? And part of it is, and honestly, because part of this is that so many podcasts are out there, TV shows, whatever, radio, that are so extreme in the way that they present. Maybe not in their views, but in the way that they present. And I felt like I feel like people want some more kind of centrist,
Yeah.
sane conversation. And so that's what I've endeavored to do. And so, like I said, I'm having conversations with everyone from Tyrus from Fox News to Bob Costas to Tony Dungy to Ilya Shapiro to Ari Fleischer. The shame for me has been that there are a number of Democrats that I've invited on that just either won't respond or will not come on. So, I try to deal with that in other ways. And then I've had people who want to come on who frankly aren't coming on in good faith. They want to come on and just rip me to shreds. And I don't, I'm not into that either. I mean, I'd like to just have sane conversations.
Hence the name of the podcast. But
Yes.
so people are attacking you still. So are these previous colleagues, or is this just new people coming out of the woods? Where are the attacks coming from?
I think the attacks are coming from people who don't know me very well. People who have decided that because I don't like CRT being taught in K through 12 education, that I'm somehow racist. That couldn't be, it couldn't be further from the truth. And anyway, so and again, and the other one that's really getting it to me right now is the transgenders in sports. I know so many female athletes, amazing female athletes, and I grew up in the era that Title IX was just coming into being. And what are we doing to it? What are we doing to this fairness? It's to me it's just lunacy. And so people want to call me transphobes, whatever. They can call me whatever they want. It's not going to make me cower in the corner. It's just not something I'm willing to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's no lack of topics out there. I mean, you just touched on a couple of them, like DEI and women, biological males competing in women's sports. We've talked a lot on our own show about those topics, and you're right. So again, there's no shortage of topics. What I like about what you said, though, is you're trying to bring us back to the center. Let's have a discussion, right? I mean, I agree with you. I can see what you're trying to say. It's not about being racist. It's about having a sane conversation. Get back to the middle, have these dialogues. Because right now what we're seeing is just so many people getting excited and they just want to yell and scream and call someone, make fun of someone. And that's how they get this attention. And we got to stop that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're advocating right now.
That's what I'm advocating for. I don't know. It feels like the toothpaste is out of the tubes in so many ways. You know, it's just we've got these social media platforms and people are willing to type anything they want. And you know, so I want conversations in good faith. You know, I've made the mistake of going on a podcast that I thought was going to be that, and it was an ambush. And I've made the mistake of inviting someone on that I shouldn't have, and I didn't do my due diligence ahead of time. So I'm learning as I go. You know, nobody's perfect. I'm certainly the furthest thing from perfect, but I'm trying. I want to make an effort because I can't not try. I can't sit back and watch all this.
Well, your strength and courage is courageous. I mean, it's amazing what you're doing. And we talked a lot about the people that are attacking you. What about the supporters? You have a lot of supporters?
Oh, yes, I do. And, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with Riley Gaines, the Kentucky swimmer who now is becoming a household name fighting for fairness in women's sports. She and I have become acquainted, and, you know, we've been texting each other during these last few days. And she said to me that, I feel so much support that it encourages me that there are more people on my side than on the other side. In spite of all she's going through, of being physically attacked, I feel the same way. I feel like I have more support than I have people against me. But maybe that's just because I'm living in a nice little fun, you know, sparkly echo chamber bubble. But I do like to believe that people are hungry for this. They're hungry for sanity. They're hungry for just, like I said, good faith conversations where people aren't just out to make a point at your expense no matter what. My husband gave me this great saying yesterday. He said, sometimes, you know, these conversations you get into, it's like playing chess with a pigeon. You may have heard this. You're playing chess with a pigeon. The pigeon's going to knock the pieces down, poop all over the board, and still strut around like he won. No matter how well you play that chess game, this is how the pigeon's going to see it, right? No matter how good your moves are, the pigeon's just going to knock the pieces over, poop on the board, and strut around like he won. So I thought that is such a great visual for me and a great way to think about it. So I don't want to play chess with pigeons. I want to play chess with people who really are serious about engaging.
I have not heard that one before, but I love it. I'll probably steal that at some point and use it again.
Listen, have at it. It's so perfect. It's just like it's perfect.
It really, it really is. It perfectly describes the situation that we're under right now. It's unbelievable. Well, and that's awesome that you're connecting with Riley on that. I mean, she's been all over the news, especially this weekend, as you mentioned. She's being attacked by biological males claiming that they're females. And I mean, even you look at the MMA, right? We're seeing even some of these fights going on where there's biological males fighting women and crushing their skulls, right? I mean, it's just, this is, again, I love the name of your podcast, The Sanity, right? Because this is insane. And we need someone like yourself to bring us back to sanity, if you will.
Well, it sounds like you're doing the same thing, so I appreciate it.
We are. We're trying. It's a battle, but it's a great battle to have, and we're glad that you've joined the battle as well. So again, your story is fantastic, and again, I think a lot of people can relate to you, right? You had that dream job, and I just kind of want to bring it back to that. So, what advice would you give our audience that are maybe struggling with some of these woke politics that they have in corporations or mandates, and they're afraid to stand up and say something because they think that their career is going to go down in flames? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say I was in a fortunate position where I got to choose. I got to leave on my own terms, which is very rare in my business, and that's kind of why I did it sooner than later. I wanted to leave on my own terms. Not everyone's in that position, and I get it. So what I would say is support anyone you can who you believe speaks for you in that way. Support those who can speak out. It is tough. I've had friends of mine say, God, I really wanted to repost what you posted, but I'm afraid. That kills me. That here in America, where we have free speech and the First Amendment, that people are afraid of losing their jobs. Another person I've become friends with is Jennifer Safe, the former president of Levi's, who left her job and she was kind of forced out, but she didn't take the buyout that they wanted to give her for her silence. She instead said, no, you can force me out, but I'm going to go talk about this. She posted about kids needing to get back to school, about masking in schools and all the rest. And now she is a very outspoken voice on all of this kind of woke stuff that is permeating every part of our lives. So I would say to people, watch who you do business with outside of your own job. Look at labels. Look at where things are made. I don't buy anything made in China. I just won't. That is an existential threat for us, and we can't let corporations continue to say, oh, we're going to make this in China and you're going to buy it anyway. Do your damnedest not to. And if you need to become active silently, there are ways to do that. Like I said, to get behind people who speak for you. And so those are the first bits of advice that I have. And I would say find like-minded people and try to stick together. I wish those women, biological women in the MMA and in swimming events and in cycling events and in every other event where they are saying, we're going to let trans women in. The rest of those women should step out of the ring, so to speak, and say, we're not competing. This isn't fair. Sorry, we're not doing this. And they need to see more of that now. If that happens, you're going to start to see rules changes because, I mean, how high does this have to go? Do we have to see a great tennis player defeated by a male? Do we have to see, men coming into, biological men wanting to play in the WNBA and dunking on women? How far does this have to go before we wake up and say, this isn't just fringe anymore, and these are real people whose success, their chance at a trophy, their chance at a national title, in the case of Leah Thomas in swimming,
that's right,
their chance at making an Olympic team. How far are we going to let this go?
Yeah, no, it again goes back to the insanity. And what I like about what you're saying, though, is you have a sense of urgency, and people need to realize you can do something about this. Either you quit your job and start a podcast, or you don't, but you support people that do, and you start voicing your opinion as much as you can, because we can't wait. We can't sit on the sidelines. We can't say, well, this is just a fad and it's going to go away at some point. It won't if we don't do something about it.
Yeah, the more you withdraw your support from things. You've seen a major backlash against Bud Light and against Nike for using a transgender woman in their ads. When I just, the other part about this is so infuriating for me. This is not about banning people. This is not about transphobia. This is about what is a real woman. It's not someone who just dresses up and makes herself look pretty and flits about. That's not what it is.
It's absolutely insulting to a woman. Yes.
It's like, really? That's what you think a woman is? Okay. All right.
We can go on about this one. It does get my blood boiling. And again, it goes back to the insanity concept. Well, again, Michele, I'm just grateful that you have given us this great example of doing something about it. And I love your practical examples of things that everyone can do. And there is a sense of urgency here. So, Michele, what else can we do to support the work that you're doing?
Oh, that's so kind of you. Well, subscribe to my podcast. You can find it everywhere, from YouTube to Spotify to Apple to Salem Podcast Network. Subscribe. That would be great to have your support and to have your listenership. We're growing every day. And you can find me on all the major platforms except TikTok. I do not operate there.
I wonder
why.
And
hope to God they ban that. Yeah, I really hope they ban that. I'm hearing today that the Biden administration is looking to recruit influencers from TikTok to help support the candidacy of Joe Biden. And I'm amazed by that they would actually use TikTok for this. We're considering banning it. It's whatever. These
Nothing surprises me anymore.
I know, right?
Well, Michele, again, I want to thank you for your courage, and I want to thank you for inspiring millions of Americans to do the exact same thing. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I hope so. It's just any one person we can influence, right?
That's right.
We'll take it.
All right. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting conservative media. Don't ever forget that by working together and staying diligent, we conservatives can bring our country back to true greatness. Until next week, let's all keep praying that God will continue to bless America.
First Right, a new kind of news summary without the liberal slant. Every morning, in your inbox, always free. Subscribe by texting First Right to 30161. That's First Right, all caps, one word, to 30161.